Hi, and welcome to another surgery screencast. The subject of today's screencast is basic microphone technique. So we're going to be looking at a few different kinds of microphone you might find for recording spoken word, and looking at the various advantages and disadvantages of those types of mics and how to get the best out of them. So the first thing I'm going to look at is three types of microphone you might come across when you're recording spoken word. The first being large diaphragm condenser microphone, which is what would be used in a studio for recording a voiceover. So that'll be our reference point, if you like. That's the kind of microphone I'm using at the moment, and the kind you can see in front of me. This is a Rode NT2000, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. The next kind is a USB microphone, which will plug directly into a USB port, a nice simple solution. And the last will be a headset microphone, such as you might already have for something like video conferencing. And again, we'll be able to hear and look at the differences between that and a slightly more advanced kind of microphone. So I'm going to be trying to simulate the kind of conditions a lot of our users will face in terms of recording in my own office. I'm recording direct into Camtasia. I'm not using any fancy audio software. I'm not using any processing either before or after recording. My microphone's going straight into the computer, so we'll be able to get a good idea of exactly the kind of sound that comes dry from the microphone without any treatment or prettying up of the sound. I'll also be talking about some basic microphone technique, where to position yourself in relation to your microphone or it in relation to you, and how to speak when recording into a mic, how to get a nice natural sound that sounds like you rather than some of the slightly stilted performances that some people seem to get out of microphones, which we'd like to try and avoid where possible. And also a little bit about positioning your microphone and yourself in the room to get a good sound from it without too much reverberation, too much transmitted noise, being aware of your surroundings basically. That's going to be a subject that we're going to cover in more detail in a later screencast, so that's really something I'm just going to touch on. So the first thing we're going to look at is a kind of overview of what we're trying to achieve with the spoken word recording. If you listen to a voiceover for a television program, so the mighty David Attenborough or someone like that, there's always a nice relaxed, natural feel to the voice. You feel that they're just in the room talking to you. So we'll talk a little bit about how to achieve that. Clarity and warmth of sound, well, a lot of that comes from the microphone and how it's used. So again, that's going to be central to what we're talking about. And also getting a consistency to the sound, so that when you're producing materials again and again, you get a consistent sound from your microphone which becomes associated with your materials. So first thing we're going to start with is looking at a few different kinds of microphone. Okay, I'm going to start by talking about condenser microphones. The kind I'm using at the moment is a Rode NT2000, which is a large diaphragm condenser. Now, large diaphragm condensers are generally the weapon of choice for recording voiceovers in a professional studio, and they come in all sorts of flavours and price ranges, anything from around £50 up to £5,000 or more even for vintage microphones. So a huge range of prices and features also. The Rode has quite a few interesting features in that it has adjustable pickup pattern and sensitivity, and also a bass roll-off filter for taking out the bass end of your signal to take out any floorborne noise or rumble, thumps, but also to dry out the sound. It just alters the balance of the sound subtly as well. So some quite nice features, but it's quite a representative type of large diaphragm condenser. But condensers in general are considered to be the best quality mics for vocal recording, as I said. They have the widest frequency response. They'll also give a warm and natural sound, which, as I said earlier, is something that it's quite critical to try and achieve. They're very flexible in their configuration, in that you can choose a suitable audio interface or sound card to go with that. But on the downside, they can be demanding in terms of what interface they will work with. They'll generally require phantom power, which means a 48-volt signal that's transmitted down the microphone cable. A lot of mic inputs won't supply this. It'll generally be on a large 3-pin XLR connector that you won't get from just an entry-level sound card. They are more delicate than many other types of microphone. You've got to be careful of things like damp, and they can't really be used outside unless you're feeling quite confident or brave, or it's a very nice day. And they're more expensive than most other kinds of microphone. But as I said, the advantages of the sound quality generally outweigh all of those factors when choosing a microphone purely for quality's sake. Okay, now I'm going to talk about USB microphones. So I've swapped the large diaphragm condenser I used for the initial sections for a Rode Podcaster, which is a USB microphone in that it plugs directly into a USB port on the computer, standard USB port, and deals with all of its own digital to analog conversion for the signal. And it doesn't require a sound card of any description, even to be present at all within the system. This, of course, makes the setup very easy. There's no level matching to be done. It has a preset record level, and literally plug and play. Any machine I've plugged this microphone into, be it Windows or Mac, has automatically recognised the microphone. And in the case of Windows machines which don't have the drivers already installed, they are installed from a chip on the microphone automatically, which is very neat, I think. So most USB microphones will score very highly in terms of ease of use. In terms of quality, well, the microphone will be matched to its converter and the level's preset. So there's very little that you can do wrong, although it does lack the flexibility that a more professional setup of a separate microphone and audio interface might give you. Having said that, as I said, for the less experienced user, that's generally applied. So this kind of mic is absolutely ideal for someone wanting to do a more informal type of recording, such as podcasting, voiceovers for presentations, that kind of thing, without wanting to get too deep into audio configuration and setup. And generally pricing is mid-range, so less expensive than buying a separate microphone and converter, although a little bit more than some of the headset type or built-in type mics that are available for gaming and that sort of thing. And lastly, a quick taste of a USB headset microphone. This is a Logitech ClearChat Pro, which similarly to the USB mics plugs straight into a USB port and incorporates headphones and microphone. So again, it's a very nice, quick, easy setup, but as you can hear, the audio quality really is pretty compromised. And these kind of microphones, while they're okay if you're on a really tight budget or if you're in a jam, they're not going to compare in terms of quality to a microphone which is designed with audio capture, with vocal capture in mind. But I guess that they're okay to push. Okay, now to return to my nice condenser microphone, because I'm just going to give you a few quick tips on microphone technique. This really will apply to whatever kind of microphone you're recording with, but obviously the biggest gains will be seen with a good mic like this. But it's all good stuff. Positioning wise, it's generally, when recording a voiceover, best to be as reasonably as close to the microphone as you can get. There are a number of reasons for this. There's firstly proximity effect, whereby when you get closer to a microphone within literally a matter of centimeters, you get a little bass lift to the voice, which generally for voiceover work makes it sound a little richer and warmer. Also, the closer you are to the microphone, obviously comparatively the more of the voice you're going to hear relatively to any reverberation. So it's a good way of cutting down on reverberant noise without actually having to do much in the way of acoustic treatment. And it allows you to speak more softly as well, and that again can often lend a little bit more intimacy to the voiceover and draw your audience into it. So between 5 and 20 centimeters is usually a pretty good range at which to record. Obviously, as you can hear, as I move away, the level drops off fairly quickly. But you'll be able to balance that with the level controls. It's best to have the microphone at head height, so you're not leaning up or down, because that'll place strain on the vocal cords. And to monitor on headphones so that you can hear approximately how it sounds and get a feel for your technique with the microphone and getting a consistent sound. Now, there are a few problems you may encounter as well when recording a spoken word voiceover. Sibilance can be one. Sibilant consonants S or F can sometimes produce a hissing sound, which can be reduced usually with a plug-in effect, which can be found in most digital audio workstation software. And the other common one is popping, caused by plosive consonants P, B, and sometimes T. You may be able to hear a tiny little bit there. Now, I don't personally like to record with a pop shield, which is quite a useful way of getting rid of these artifacts. And this is a pop shield. It's a see-through mesh grill, which you would generally place in front of the microphone like this. I find that kind of uncomfortable to use myself. My preferred method is just to speak slightly across the microphone at 45 degrees to it, so the wave of air coming from my mouth doesn't in fact hit the diaphragm and cause the popping sound. If I just move my mouth slightly so that I'm actually talking directly into it, and then Peter Piper picked a peck of paper, you can hear it beginning to start. It begins to pop very quickly. So my technique with the mic is to talk across the mic a little bit, or to the side of it, rather than directly into it, and that tends to avoid the popping. Again, I quite like to speak quite softly and near to the mic, because that cuts down on reverberance within the room, and also gives, as I said, a nice intimate sound to the recording. What Carl is fond of calling the Radio 2 effect. And then again, try and relax, keep a normal pace and your normal style. It generally doesn't work to put on a radio voice, if you like, a special voice for the microphone. It will usually sound a little stilted and unnatural, and it won't allow you to get into your usual delivery and sound as confident with the material as you might otherwise do. Positioning wise, I've done a little bit of very simple deadening of the walls and space around me with cushions and a thick curtain. It has a marginal effect, but it is all useful to cut down on reverberance, which is impossible to remove once you've recorded, so you do have to deal with that at the recording stage. Ideally, I'd be facing into the corner. I'm not, because I'm recording to a camera, but if I were wanting to get just the best audio, I would be facing into this corner with the deadening materials behind the microphone. And crucially, let the microphone do the work. You don't need to shout into a microphone. The louder you talk, the more reverberance you're going to get from the room. So keep your David Attenborough voice, if you like, and let the mic do the work. So yeah, hopefully all of that's been useful stuff and will help you make improvements to your vocal recording sound. Any other questions? Of course, you know where our help desk is. Thanks a lot.